The days of starving yourself, of tracking every calorie, of entering it into your calculator and hating dieting is over. If you have been using this method to lose fat, or if you haven't started but you believe this is the method you need to use, I want to stop you here, right? You guys have got to understand there is one thing that determines fat loss more than anything, more than calories, more than how much volume of food you eat, right? More than treating your body like it's some sort of calculator which reads numbers and then subtracts them at the end of the day and says, you were in a 500 calorie deficit, so you lose fat. There is one thing that is more important than all of those things, and it's the thing that almost every man lacks today. And very few people out there talk about it. Most influencers never mention it, right? Most influencers will never touch on this subject. They will just talk about calories, they will talk about gym, they will talk about all of these other things which just aren't that important. They aren't that relevant to how you sustain fat loss. And the thing that I'm talking about, right? The thing I'm talking about is hormones. It's testosterone. But not just testosterone, it's cortisol, it's your thyroid, it's your metabolism, it's your dopamine, it's your serotonin, it's everything. Everything drives how your body uses calories and how your body determines what nutrients go where, how the shape of your body is, whether your body burns fat or whether it gains fat, whether it gains muscle easy or wastes away muscle at the first opportunity. These things are all determined by your hormonal state. And I'm not talking about needles, I'm not talking about using TRT here. You can change your hormonal state by fixing what you put in your body. And yes, as the title says, you can eat more and lose fat. You can eat more than what most people out there are eating and be in fantastic shape. Get pretty much shredded, right? You can be in really good nick. And you know, you can enjoy the process and live a comfortable life. The way you do this is by directing everything you eat towards this one purpose. Like I said, very few influencers talk about this. I consider myself an influencer, so maybe I'm one of them. Or maybe I'm not big enough yet, I don't know. But then you have people like a guy called Ray Peat who speaks about this. His diet focused on the metabolism. And it went against a lot of mainstream info. And what you guys watching this have got to understand, if you've been struggling with fat loss for a long time, if you are constantly on and off with diets because diets are boring, they leave you feeling drained, you end up with a bad relationship with food, right? Or you end up putting too much importance on output, on more time in the gym, on doing more work. If you've been doing that, then this is the exact thing that you need, right? And it took me years of work and hard lessons to learn this, right? I used to fight MMA while working construction full time. I was doing more physical output than most men ever do in their lives. And yet I was in worse shape, right? Why? Because I wasn't living by these methods. So everything you eat should be geared towards your hormones. Another thing as well is that the mainstream will consistently go against this. So everything you read, whether it's mainstream health advice or mainstream fitness advice from big influencers with a bunch of sponsorship deals or whatnot, or you know, the Daily Mail, the news, the NHS health guidelines, whatever it is, this is going to go against all of those things, right? So let's go through some of the foundations, and I want to explain a bit of the methodology to you guys so you understand. So number one is what enters your body needs to be stable. This is the science of it. Stability. Stable food means stable cells, and stable cells means you have the right cell structure to make high testosterone, to have a fast metabolism, to not have a body that's vulnerable to all these bad things which slow everything down, because you're not meant to operate in a state of, you know, having a skinny fat physique, of being stressed, of fat gaining easy. Your ancestors didn't have that problem because they lived by these rules without realizing. So everything you put in your body needs to be stable. Some examples of stable food: red meat, right? Saturated fats, so eggs, dairy, steak, lamb, right? Coconut oil even. These are all saturated. And guess what? The mainstream media says, don't eat those, they're going to give you heart disease, they're going to give you plaque. Biggest load of bullshit ever, right? They gather that information based on the fact that most people eat processed food, and they simply look at that one variable, which is saturated fat, and they say, well, when people tend to eat more saturated fat, they tend to get more heart disease. But it's taken out of context. The context is people are also eating processed food, living an unhealthy lifestyle, and the chances are the type of people that tend to eat more cheese and heavy saturated fat habitually, right, not on purpose, habitually, probably live unhealthily in other areas. So it drives that unhealthy, heart disease rate up. It's a silly method of doing it, but that's how they do it because it suits their agenda. So anything saturated is good, right? Because when you remove the stuff that is unstable, so naturally unsaturated, your body doesn't do what's called oxidization very well, right? So oxidization is basically when cells, they become mutated, right? They break apart, they become unstable, they release toxins into the system, and that comes from cells being unstable. So what are some examples of unstable things that you should avoid? Well, polyunsaturated fats, right? So seed oils, too much fish, anything processed, right? So seed oils, for example, I'm not just talking about the seed oils you see on the shelves, so rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, those types of things. This is what they use to cook McDonald's chips or fries. Any type of food you eat out is probably cooked in these oils. These oils are put into everything, right? Into protein bars, into any ultra-processed food. So by extension, you should avoid ultra-processed food completely because it's unstable. And that leads to your body being stable. When your body's stable, your metabolism ramps up, everything upregulates. Testosterone, muscle gain, fat loss, metabolism, energy, it all goes up because your body is more stable. So you can naturally, when you get to that stage, eat more food. When your body is upregulated, you can eat more calories because your body will burn more calories. And you're no longer a calculator that looks at numbers anymore, who has to starve themselves, who has to force themselves to do their 10K step walk or their morning run, whatever it is, to burn the calories. And then you're chasing your hunger for the rest of the day, feeling starving, wishing you were dead, right? That's not how it's meant to be. And the facts are, right, when you eat more calories, you burn more, everything upregulates, it's easy to maintain those habits, right? It doesn't mean you stuff your face like a pig. It just means you can eat more food and be more satiated while seeing the progress that you want. Now, the other thing, which is really important to remember here, right, is not to demonize things like sugar, not to demonize things that are basically demonized by the mainstream, right? So sugar is demonized, but I don't mean sugar like Cadbury chocolate bars and processed shit, because it's not so much the sugar that's bad. When you read them, they're full of things like rapeseed oil and other ingredients. But things like natural sugar. I drink orange juice every day. I have maple syrup. I have natural ice cream. I have fruit. That natural sugar drives your thyroid and metabolism upwards, which is what you use. So you can eat more fruit, be satiated, burn more calories. There's a thing called NEAT movement, which is basically unconscious movement. I'm doing it right now, right? I'm looking down, my legs bouncing up and down. I'm in this state of like my body is doing more. That can burn hundreds, if not up to thousands of calories a day extra subconsciously. Because when you cut out those calories and you slash your calories hard and you eat processed food that is unstable, everything down regulates. So you don't subconsciously move as much. You tend to lay down more like a couch potato. And then when you do eat more, because you're eating processed food, you end up moving less because your body's still down regulated. So you gain fat, right? This leads on to the next point about fat loss, right? And how it's not just about numbers and calories. It's also about something called your insulin and insulin sensitivity. Now, this is directly correlated to testosterone. When testosterone is high, insulin sensitivity is high. What is insulin? When you eat sugar, your body releases insulin from the pancreas to combat that sugar spike. The more insulin sensitive you are, the more insulin your body will release and the more it combats that sugar spike and therefore manages it better. So when you're insulin sensitive, you're lean, high testosterone, you have a fast metabolism, you can eat more, especially sugar, and your body is going to use that sugar for either gaining muscle if you're regularly lifting, or it's going to upregulate your activity. Sugar isn't bad like seed oils are. Seed oils, the unstable stuff, will stay in your fat cells. It will become part of your system. It doesn't just leave your body and then it downregulates everything. It doesn't happen when you eat sugar from whole food sources. So becoming insulin sensitive and having high testosterone should be your priority to sustain this method of eating more. And another thing is, like, the mainstream will say everything in moderation. You know, eat your cheat meals. But 20% is going to ruin this method. You need to go 100% in. Good news is, when you're 100% in, you enjoy it. It changes your biochemistry, your gut microbiome, so you actually enjoy these whole foods. You enjoy steak and eggs the same amount that you would enjoy McDonald's now. If you put a McDonald's in front of me, like, it would actually make me feel a bit ill. And I'm not saying that just for the sake of it. The smell is just, ugh. Like, I haven't touched it for years, right? It's disgusting. I don't want to eat it anymore because my body doesn't crave it. Same with sweets, same with any sort of junk. I could be fasting for 24 hours and I won't want to eat that stuff. Do you know how powerful you become when it comes to managing your diet and lifestyle when you get to that stage? You don't need to have any bad food in your diet and life anymore. So you can naturally be someone who eats good, has a fast metabolism, eats more food, enjoys the lifestyle, continues to get in better shape. Then you combine that with high testosterone and good insulin sensitivity. When you do eat more food, your body puts it into muscle mass. It doesn't just go straight to fat, right? And then if you do happen to eat more, you'll probably just naturally move more to burn it off anyway. If I ever have a day where I do actually eat a lot, a bit too much, I will just have more activity, right? I will be moving more. I'll probably go out for a walk. I will just naturally do more, and it brings me to that maintenance level. It makes it very hard to gain fat. So this whole thing about track your calories, eat less food, starve yourself to get in shape is bullshit. The only exception is if you want to get like super, super shredded. Like, you know, those guys that have no fat on them. They're literally like diced. To get to that point, you do have to track things a bit and be a bit more like precise, you know, but you can still use this method. You just have to be very restrictive with it. And I would still find it a lot more enjoyable doing it that way than doing it the mainstream way of having fucking rice cakes and processed junk and protein powder and feeling like shit and trying to do it that way and then end up rebounding really hard. Why do you think those bodybuilders are always eating so much junk food after dieting, after doing what they do? Because they don't enjoy what they do. Their diet and lifestyle to them is forced. They have to eat chicken and rice. They have to have protein shakes. They have to have all this salad and low-fat stuff. And it's shit. It's miserable. And the first opportunity they get, they're gorging themselves on junk food and gaining all this weight back. Right? Whereas if they just had a lifestyle they enjoy and they can stick to, they wouldn't have that problem. So, you know, the point of this video today, right, is that you learn, and you have hopefully learned, that you don't need to starve yourself. Diets don't need to be boring. The days of doing that are over if you have a brain, right? You can just focus on your testosterone, which is what I do. It's my method. I call it the Ancestor Maxim method because it's a combination of the animal-based diet, carnivore, and a number of things to get to this point. And you get to that point and you become very powerful with your diet. So if you guys have been watching this channel for a while, I hope you've been finding it useful. If you're new to it, that's also fine. Welcome. I do have an Instagram. I'll put the link to it down below. And I am a full-time fitness coach. If you guys have been watching for a while and you're sat on the fence wondering whether to take action, then you should take action, right? Book a call with me. You know, the worst case scenario is we find out you're not a good fit and we simply don't work together. I am very selective with who I work with. I'm not trying to take your money. I'm trying to help you because in my experience, I've worked with hundreds of men and I know who does and doesn't see results. And that would be the point of a strategy call together. And for a lot of you, this is the thing you're missing. You have no structure. You have no one in your corner, no one helping you. You're trying to do everything yourself, and you have been doing it like for years by yourself, trying to learn, trial and error, and nothing clicks because you've never fully dialed in your habits and locked in. If you stay in your comfort zone, what do you think happens? Do you think great results come from being in your comfort zone? Of course they don't. Book that call. If you're ready, I'll see you on the other side. And obviously subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting more videos here, and I hope you guys found it useful. I'll see you on the next one.